the mixer on the right. If you hit the speaker, it'll mute it, but you'll have to unmute it again uh, whenever we switch scenes. Are you trolling me? No, not that one. The other one. The one that says desktop audio.
Three. That's four. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? We're on the Crow's Nest. It's Tuesday, 4 p.m. Central Time, and we have a very special guest, probably the most specialist guest that we've had on our entire Crow's Nest career. Today's special guest is the Queen of Dragons, Julie Guthrie. How you doing today, Julie?
Also,
I'm
as a side note, sorry, Julie,
Yeah.
but we have to point out that Proctor doesn't know how to count down. All right, we can't let him off the hook for this.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't have I can't do the Spock thing, I can't do that. It won't do it. I broke this pinky, and so it never goes straight.
Oh boy. Put your hand down. Julie, you have the floor. You have the floor, Julie.
So hello
everyone.
It's already off the rails. Already. We haven't even started yet. So we have been efforting Julie since the very beginning. And we had to work out the technical bugs, which comes to pan out. The technical bugs really, in all essence, never really resided with Bob and Julie. They've always just stayed here at the Crow's Nest. As anybody that might have tuned in when I went to the starting soon screen, it was kind of a disaster to begin with today. Action-packed show today. We have Julie Guthrie. We're going to talk about all kinds of Julie Guthrie stuff today. I'm going to be continuing my work on the badass Julie Guthrie Dragon Bust. It's going to be all over the place on it a little bit more, painting it a red, purpley kind of goodness. We also are going to do a quick promo of something that people have been very excited about. The new airbrush. We're not going to do a promo of it. I'm going to do a quick review of it and what I think about it. I just got it yesterday. I got to play around with it a little bit, and I've got a couple other things, kind of like a minor unboxing or showing off of a couple other pieces are going to be available during ReaperCon too. A couple other miniatures and some paints. So, but let's get back to the most important part of this show. It's Julie Guthrie, the Queen of Dragons. So you're doing good today. What's the temperature in Arizona today? We asked Bob last week. Let's compare. Is it over 100?
Yeah, it's been over 100, over 110 for the last 32 days.
Oh my Lord.
I think it's 112, and it's coming down. We're actually dropping a little bit.
Does it matter at that hot? Does it matter a few degrees?
Not really. You just get to the habit of going out when you go to the grocery store, if you go to the grocery store anymore, to do it before 9 o'clock in the morning.
It's so like sticking your head in the oven, kind of hot.
But we get to smirk at everybody else in December and February and all those nice months, all our friends back in the Northeast.
That's true. It is beautiful there that time of year. For what, 2, 3, 4 months, it's nice. It's bearable. It's not you're not gonna catch on fire by stepping outside.
No, you just don't walk barefoot. And everybody who walks their dogs, you have to get little booties for the dogs because it burns their feet.
Yes. We ever, when the world returns to normal, Michelle likes to go to Art Fest, especially down in Denver in the summer, and it's always kind of it's fun to go, but people love to bring their dogs out to the Art Fest and walk around, and a lot of times they're on pavement. But she is the dog. Pavement not being too hot for the dog's feet police. So she will go around and she's made comments to folks. Not saying there's been any fisticuffs, but it might have come close to that a couple times.
Okay. Can I just mention that I can't see chat, so someone is going to have to, either you or Justin is going to have to tell me if people are asking questions.
I will do that. I will. Oh yeah, grape dragon. It kind of is a grape dragon. Let's see who's all on. Who can I see? Bug Lips is on. I saw Wicked Elf is Greg Zuniga's on. I made the connection together this time, Greg. I need props for that. I can't see. And then Ember's So Far Ranger. Is that right? I don't know. Justin, I'm horrible. I'm worse at these names than you are. You've actually gotten really good at pronouncing names.
Which name are you trying to say?
Ember So Far Ranger. Ember So Far Ranger. Yes. Anyways, yeah. I could never get Rings Raccoons on as well. Max Styles and Bug Lips. I could never get, when we had Zoe and Kaya, we would put little booties on them to go out in the snow, in the deep snow, and they hated them. They would kick them off. They wouldn't wear them. They wouldn't do it. So anyways, let's get back to you, Julie. So when Bob was on last week, we talked a little bit about origin story and his first sculpting and stuff. At what point in your life, your young life, maybe, probably, did you decide I am getting into sculpting?
How far back do you want me to go?
What was your first glimmer of like, I want to sculpt? I am drawn to the sculpting.
You want the first glimmer.
Yeah.
I don't know how old kids are when they're teething.
Really? Okay.
Actually, yes, it's one of my first memories. I was having tooth pain, and I had the little kid Blanky, and I was chewing on it because my teeth hurt. Of course, I was drooling all over it, and it was nice and wet. And I remember forming little animals, specifically a horse head.
Wow.
And so I think I was meant to be a sculptor from birth. I was probably messing with the umbilical cord when I was inside the womb.
You were a child prodigy.
Well, that's one name for it. My mom has another. So, and also early on, I couldn't find the toys I wanted to play with, so I made
Okay.
my own.
And what would
So
you
I've
make them
made
out of?
all sorts of things: wood,
Yeah.
clay, pipe cleaners was a big thing,
Uh-huh.
fur and yarn, and just whatever I could manipulate.
Oh, crazy.
So I have done it all my life.
I did not know that story. That is cool. That is super cool. So you've been doing that entire time. So at what point did it? You just kind of made these general sculptures or whatever, but did it turn into utilizing a special medium over time? Did you go into clay for a while? Did you, how long a process until you started going, okay, I'm going to start using green stuff and start sculpting these particular things? Does that make sense?
Early on, it was clay,
Yeah.
and either getting clay out of the yard and then finding out you could actually buy stuff that didn't have stones and sticks and leaves in it. And so I used to do that and fire them.
Uh-huh.
The first piece I ever sold was a dragon, when I was maybe 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
So I've always loved
where'd you sell it?
monsters too.
Where'd you sell it?
Monsters were always my thing.
Yeah. Did you sell it at an art fair or just to a friend or?
No, it was like a little art fair. I used to go to the little art museum in our town, and
Oh, that's
I
cool.
think somebody there bought it. And then I used
Yeah.
to trade a lot of things. If they made something cool, I would trade something to a lot of artists.
Wow. And then so you continue to do that, and then at what point did you go, oh, miniatures? What took you from sculpting probably a larger scale? And you said you liked the monsters and you liked the dragons. Maybe that was a path into it. But when did miniatures hit your radar?
I went off to college. I came to the attention of an anonymous patron of the arts, and they said if I went to study art, they would pay. And I got accepted and discovered people playing RPGs in the lounge of our dorm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I discovered Dungeons and Dragons and little miniatures. I went to the game store and saw these things saying, oh my God, why didn't they have these when I was a little kid? I was taking jewelry a lot at that time, and so I made a couple lost wax bronze casts in my spare time and went to a convention that a bunch of miniatures people were at, including Relpartha.
Mm-hmm.
Got to talk to Tom Meyer, and Tom Meyer told me what they used to make the little pieces. So the next time I went, I think in 6 months, next convention was, I brought, I think, 4, maybe 6 pieces that I had done.
Mm-hmm.
And they said when I got out of school to come see them. They were looking for another sculptor, Relpartha.
Mm-hmm.
And which I did. I sold those 4 pieces to a small company. I can't remember who now, but I do know that Lance and Laser ended up with them. They bought the rights from whatever company that was. Could have been Apple Miniatures, but that was a long time ago. That was in the early 80s.
Did you get an art degree?
I did. Okay. I have an Associate of Science degree, and I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts.
And what was your concentration in fine arts? Was it sculpture?
Actually, jewelry more than sculpture. It was kind of what I went to college for, since I didn't think I wanted to do the fine art gallery thing.
Mm-hmm.
I liked making objects, so I went and took any class that I thought would teach a technique that would be useful in the future. So a lot of sculpture, a lot of jewelry, pottery, not too much painting. I don't think I had any painting classes. Photography, but mainly in jewelry and sculpture would be my focus.
That's interesting because I went to art school as well, and I always ask that when someone says they have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, it's what was your concentration? But the neat thing about art school was exactly what you just mentioned. I'm going to be a sculptor. I went in to be a photographer, and so I thought I'm going to take photography classes. And what I didn't know going in is, no, yeah, you're taking photography classes, schmuck, but you're taking every other art class too, just so you know. And I had to take painting. I did not take jewelry making. I took 2 sculpture classes.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid of jewelry making, but I took drawing and design and composition and all that stuff. But you had printmaking. It was immersive in all of that, and I think that helped me go back to my photography, and then end up being what I'm doing now is painting goofy toys. But
I think art is a language, and you're learning how to speak it by going to art school. You're learning what works, what doesn't work, and it's weird what may apply to whatever your focus is going to be.
Yeah, and you don't even know at that time when you're starting down that path, right? Or even what language you're learning. You may have an intent of learning this language, but you come out of it going, I didn't get that, but I got this out of it. I think, and do you still feel that that's the case even today? I mean, you've been sculpting for quite a while. We won't mention the number of years, but I see your stuff is still ever evolving, ever changing, ever refining.
Yeah, I think it does. I think you're always learning. I don't think I've ever done a piece that I consider perfect. It's, if you do, you might as well quit because there's no point in going on. But there's also some things that carry from even the early days, even from, say, printmaking or drawing. You have a style that continues, and it's, I think, hard to explain what that style could be, especially your own. You may recognize other people's, but not so much your own.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, I think, and I talked about this on the show a lot, I do think as you get into this hobby and you want to pursue it or do any kind of art career, it's good to take inspiration from folks and learn from them and everything, but always keep in mind your own voice. I think sometimes my voice comes out clearer because I can't do anything else. I can't. I'm not necessarily the best copier, so it ends up just coming out with my little demented voice attached to it. But yeah, no, it's good.
I do see the art background that you have. Your approach is very painterly. The way you approach color, especially.
Thanks. It's something too that I don't know if you feel the way. Sometimes I do feel like I need to go back and take a step back sometimes on what I'm doing with my process. You become too used to doing something a certain way. Do you feel like you get in a rut sometimes in sculpting and you've got to back up and like maybe reteach yourself something that you feel like well? Does that make sense?
Yes, all the time. I think what I used to do early on when I was still learning a lot is at the anniversary of my getting the job with Partha, I would lay out all the pieces that I had done that year from start to end and say, what do I need to work on this year? And what worked, what didn't work, and at that point, sometimes taking a step back and things like that.
Yeah, so let's jump into Partha a little bit more. I mean, one of the historically great miniature companies from back in the day. I mean, if you were to list 2 companies, 3 companies probably back in the day, it was Raoul Partha, it was Grenadier, and then Heritage, right? Now, those were really the 3 biggies, right? And Raoul Partha and Grenadier were at the very tip top, and then Raoul Partha surpassed them when Grenadier went under, and I don't know, they were probably 1 in 1A and 1 in 1A the whole entire time anyways. You joined on out of college, you said, with Raoul Partha, and what was your day one like? What was, the first month like working at Raoul Partha?
I was coming in when they had Dennis Mize and Tom Meyer.
Wow.
Yeah. Tom was having a little burnout and wanted to travel. And so they thought, well, we need somebody else to take up some of the slack.
Yeah.
I came in saying I want a contract. One of the things that was important is for me to have my name on the blister somewhere. There's a story to that too.
Was that a new thing? Was that a new? Were they not doing that before?
They were. but it was always on the back of the blister. So if you looked at Dennis Mize had a line, Children of the Night, and I don't remember what Tom's was called. He did the lion's share of everything because he started when he was 16. And they had their name on the back of the blister. And, my little ego said, I want my name on the blister. And I assumed that they would put it on the back. I had my own line to do anything I wanted. It was All Things Dark and Dangerous. That was my playground. I could do pretty much anything that I could get them to agree to. But the name had to be on the blister. The art director at the time came up with a new front cover, but didn't want to change the verbiage on the back. That they had a generic one. So she put my name in nice big type right on the front of the blister, and I think that largely made my career. Because everybody was saying, "Oh, who's this Jay Guthrie? She must be special."
Yeah. Did they know it was a she, since it was just Jay Guthrie?
No, they didn't. Most people assumed it was male. I think at the time I was one of 2, maybe 3 female sculptors in the industry. There weren't too many females back then in the industry.
I can just think of Sandra Garrity would be the other one, right?
Sandy was after me. She didn't come in for probably 3 years after me. She was doing painting of things. So she got the job after I left.
And so once you strong-arm them into putting their name on the on the blister, which is a great move, by the way. That's super awesome because, look, you are the artist and you're creating the art, right?
Back then, there were no concept artists. The sculptor is the one who came up with everything.
But, I mean, you should be getting, like other artists get their mention, their credit. Movie actors do, musicians do. You need to get your liner notes, right? So that's cool. That's super cool. And that probably started the ball rolling for everybody else. I mean, Reaper does that to this day. They put the sculptors' names on it,
Yeah, and Grenadier did.
Did you ever do any work for Grenadier, or was it just Ralph?
Oh, a ton.
You did the dragon line. I'm sorry, I totally
not
spaced
only
it
that.
on that question.
What happened was I was working for Partha, and they decided it wasn't as fun as it used to be, and they were going to sell the company. They had a buyer that later fell through, but in that time, they had decided to lay off the design department. So we were all going to go freelance. And when I went freelance, it was right before a big science fiction con and before Gen Con. So I got to tell everybody, hey, I'm going freelance, everybody, if you're interested. I came home from the conventions, my phone was ringing off the hook, and Grenadier was one of the calls.
Oh, yeah.
So went freelance, got a good contract with Grenadier, and had the Julie Guthrie's Fantasy Personalities to start with. And again, it was 6 figures a month, anything I wanted to do.
Oh, cool.
And then after that, they did the Dragons of the Month. So someone else had been doing their Dragon of the Month. Then we got to do Julie Guthrie's Dragons of the Month for 12 pieces, which was a lot of fun.
Next, I'm going to crawl up into the Craddock, and next time we're on, I want to say 4 or 5 of those in an old box somewhere, unpainted, still in the box.
Sell them on eBay.
Fully leaded out, hopefully they haven't had lead rot or something. But yeah, just loved those. Just always thought those were just the coolest things. So excited. So your Dragons of the Month were when you had your line. You didn't do the ones before that.
No, I think Mark Cobblestone or John Dennett. I'm not sure who did.
No, I thought
the line share of those.
Yours were really unique. And then, so over the years, you've seen, of all the people, you've seen the scale creep more than anybody, right? I mean, you started off, Ralph Partha, 25 millimeter, maybe?
They were 25s, and boy, you look at them now, and they're tiny.
Oh, they are so freaking tiny. I don't have
Then it crept up to about 28s for a long time, and I have no idea. There's a lot that are 34, and
can you see
I love that piece. That's a good Tom Meyer piece.
Yeah, but this is So that, and where's your hippogriff from the current bones? There's the scale creep. Right? It's a baby.
Well, you can't really do monsters.
Yeah,
exactly.
you can't compare. But yeah, I mean, that's all I really had pulled to show. But it's crazy, right? It really is. How much the scale creep has gone up. Are you glad about that?
I think they're easier to sculpt now that my eyes are older. I'm certainly glad of it. I think the part of the reason scale creep happened was there weren't that many sculptors who could do that small easily.
Oh.
And we all aged, and that had a lot to do with it too.
As a painter, I have been drawn over the years to bigger and bigger stuff, and a lot of it is due to eyesight as well, and being able to be a lot more creative painting wise. And I'm sure.
There's only so much you can do with the small stuff. It's hard to get a good expression on a figure.
Yeah.
Let alone some of those tiny little details. I remember seeing some of Tom Meyer's greens when he was doing pieces for himself. You could actually see through the putty in areas.
It's crazy.
He used a 10 power microscope to sculpt with.
Didn't he lay down or something and sculpt? And
that was the Partha way. I had what was called a papasan chair. So you leaned back and braced your elbows. And I had a great little sunroom, so I had natural light on 3 sides. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the title of the show is Queen of Dragons. So we've been painting on the dragon bust, which was an exclusive kind of resin miniature for ReaperCon, 4 years ago?
Oh, jeez.
It was when we were at that gun and knife club thing that we've joked about before with Ron. That wonderful venue. And then here's the one that I did for the con. Okay, so first of all, dragon bust. We need more of these. Is Ron on? If Ron's on, we're selling him hard on more dragon busts.
Yeah, I'll mention again that I cannot see chat. So if you have a question, I'm not ignoring you.
No. Yeah.
Oh, Justin, she's definitely ignoring you.
So, super cool dragon.
I hear a bus horn in the background.
I've painted a few of your dragons. Here was one from, I think, more than a few. And this was the zombie dragon from not this Kickstarter, but the one before, I believe. And on a previous show, we talked about, I think it was with Rhonda, where we, sometimes you just got a deadline and getting something done, and you only get to paint the front side. So here's the side that got photographed, and this is the side that never got finished. There's work done there, but not to the execution level as the other part. So even the back, the stones and stuff didn't get the same kind of treatment.
I like seeing the backside though, because then I can see your process as you go forward.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's kind of a mad. I honestly try, and I've been trying to get better of painting both sides at the same time, but inevitably, like the dragon bust, I'm really only painting one side first, and then I'll flip it over and do it again. It's
hard to finish, but when you've got a deadline, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, but even when I'm doing just pieces for me, it's I want to show off another one of your pieces that I just finished in the fall. Let me fix the camera a little bit. Was the Black Sting. This is again, this was a piece that I really wanted to do. From seeing it from the very beginning, was very fortunate to get a copy to paint for the studio model, but I ended up I had to figure everything out on this side. Right, and then once I got the quote unquote formula, it moved on to the other side. But this is just a fun, kick-ass, dynamic, vibrant piece, which your dragons are. Your dragons just aren't static and just laying there. I'm trying to show him off by not dipping his wings into the palette at the same time. So, no, but this is cool. And one thing that you reminded me of before the show was this terrain piece fits into, if you guys have the Dragons Don't Share diorama, this fits right into that. They're all designed to go together. So it just would work together, and you can plug and play and put them all together. It's kind of cool. You did a great job on this. And this
That was
piece,
a fun piece.
This piece to me seemed like the next step, the next level from Narthrax.
Yes.
Is that right? Is that fair to say?
Yes. Well, Narthrax was the first big bones dragon I think I got to do. So I was learning as I go, and you look at the piece when you finally get it back and say, well, I don't like this, I don't like that, and I got to fix some of those on Black Sting. So the anatomy, I think, is a little better.
Narthrax was so good, I painted it twice.
Yes, I have one of them.
You have.
I sweet talked you out of it.
So the story on that was Ron sends it to me saying, hey, can you paint this up? And I'm like, sure. And I see it, and I say to him, and Ron will probably deny this, hey, this looks like a blue dragon. Why don't I paint it blue? No, we need it red. Okay, sure, because it really looks like it feels like a blue dragon to me. No, we need it red. So I paint it red. Paint it just freaking red. And I get it, finish it off, turn it in, and Ron said, well, we have this dragons don't share thing. I need a blue one. Because typically, especially something that big, I only will paint it once. But yeah. And then
I was just about to say, so you did paint two, but that was only because you were made to.
It's because I was made to. But you benefited from it because
yes.
I didn't want to take it home, and you did. So there it went, and it went back to you. So I was very honored that you wanted that piece for your collection. I always thought that was super cool. I
still owe you a Clever Crow sculpt, which I was cleaning my desk and found one I started, so I'll have to finish it off.
All right, everybody on the show, you just heard that. Julie Guthrie is doing a Clever Crow miniature that we will get cast up and ready to go, and maybe show it off on the show one day, and maybe have it ready for distribution at some point.
Although you may not want it, it's kind of small.
I want whatever you can do. Whatever you can do. Yeah, please. That's awesome. I'm very flattered. All right, speaking of very flattered and uncomfortable and making the worst first impression ever. So this is a story that we've been referred to once or twice in chat. We've done all these artist cons over the year, and this was the first year. I think it was 08 or so, or 09. I'd gone to my first ReaperCon, had entered, done pretty well. Anne had asked me to paint. Anne was handling the outside painters doing commission work and whatever. Anne had me do a couple pieces, and Maurice Greyshroud, who was my very, 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 very first commission piece, was yours. You sculpted that, and didn't you, or did Bob do that one?
I don't, because we don't name them. What did it look like?
She looked like Electra with Ghost and Gates coming up from behind her.
I think that's mine, yes.
Yeah, I think it was yours. I'm pretty sure it was yours, because I remember seeing it was yours, and I was like, oh, crap. Because Anne just sent it to me, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is a pretty big audition piece. It's a female, which I don't paint a ton of females. It's one of your pieces. And anyways, so I got to paint that up, and that was really cool. But then that following October, there was an artist con. And I got, I think Ron or Ann or both reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to come to this thing called Artist Con? We get all the sculptors and the painters together, and you hang out for a few days. The most fun. That's why I do all this, just to get with you guys and hang out and do those things. That's really why.
By the way, I was just told that is Bob's, by the way.
Oh, it is Bob's piece. Okay. Well, yeah, he did. Bob actually leveled up there. He did a great job.
I'll take credit for it.
Anyways, so I go and I show up, and I had been to the ReaperCon before, and I had Gene was my roommate. I got to talking to him, and I walk into this room, and I've heard all these names before, but not to embarrass you or anything. I mean, I knew you back from buying all the old Ralpartha miniatures, right? From back in the day, from when I was painting the first time around, from when I was like, oh my God, that's Julie Guthrie. That's so cool. And I think I was kind of shy maybe the first day inside of the, while we're all painting and everything. And we were talking before the show started, and you're like, yeah, I don't think we even talked that first day. And now I'm bothering you guys all the time, and we're together, and I'm over there talking to you. But so we hang out, we paint and everything. And hey, Gene, hey, Bobby, we go to Ed's for barbecue.
Actually, it was Ann's.
It was at Ann's? No, it was Ed's, wasn't it?
No, that one was Ann's.
Okay, anyways. So, and in this, they had catered barbecue. So they have all these tins full of meat, barbecue meat. If you've been to Texas and had barbecue, it's just catered. It's giant, huge meat things in these ketchup kind of bottles, round with hot sauce in them. Warm hot sauce with the tops cut off so you can really douse your barbecue meat in barbecue sauce. So everyone's gotten in line. I think I got there shortly after you guys got there. I don't know, we rode in the bus together or the van, or I don't know how we got there, but I'm in line behind. Bob's in front of you, I think, and you're behind, and I'm right behind you. We haven't even spoken yet. And I'm trying to make small talk all super uncomfortably. And I put my barbecue meat on the plate, and I look at the barbecue sauce to see what flavor it is. And the barbecue sauce is so hot. I barely squeezed the bottle, and I covered you in hot sauce. I doused you in hot sauce.
Yes, my shirt looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. Weren't you shaking the bottle as well, or was it just from squeezing?
I don't know. I think I squeezed it. I'm not sure, but I squirted you with hot sauce, which is so embarrassing in itself. I mean, to squirt you once with hot sauce is extremely embarrassing, right? To do it one time is massively embarrassing. But for some reason, I felt the need to do it again. I don't know.
Yes, I thought I must have offended you somehow.
I nailed you again with the hot sauce too. And then I figured, I was like, well, fuck, I'm never getting invited back to one of these things ever again. I'm never gonna make it back. I'm never gonna do it. But yeah, I squirted Julie with hot sauce, barbecue sauce. Oh. And then I just felt bad, and I don't think I could have apologized. I think you guys got tired of me apologizing to you that night. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I don't know. Weren't you avoiding me for the rest of the con as well?
No.
Maybe I was avoiding you whenever you had food.
I think that's usually a safe bet, to try to avoid me when there's food around and whatnot. But
I don't suppose you've noticed, but I try not to stand in line near you anymore at the food places.
I think that's smart. I think that's a good move for anybody, really, because I'm gonna be cutting in front of the line anyways. But yeah, no, that was totally embarrassing. I'm glad to get that off my chest. So, all right, so back to real things. Anatomy, and we were talking about this a little bit. You create these great fantasy characters, the griffin, the owlbear, even this hippogriff that is not painted even closely yet. I don't like the color of the pelt or anything, but there's fantasy sculptures. And how do I put this? There's fantasy sculptures where you got these monsters that never existed, of course, in real life or whatever, and they kind of look like they're fantasy, right? Anatomically, they wouldn't really work. Yours look like you could go to the zoo and do that. And one of the ones that jumps in my mind, there's a lot that do, but one that jumps at foremost is the owlbear from the last Kickstarter. Uh-huh. It was such a unique take on an owlbear. You know, owlbears you see a lot of times, and there's some great ones out there. I mean, Jason's done some fantastic ones. Bobby even got lucky and sculpted a nice one. But yours was so like, boy, that could be real. That could really be, I could just walk outside in Colorado here and I could see that owlbear walking right by. I mean, it was just so realistic to me. Does that make sense?
I think that's why I mentioned... I mentioned earlier the Associate of Science degree, and the reason I mentioned that is I had thought to go into zoology till I found out you really can't get a job in it very easily at all. So that
Yeah.
there was always that interest in creatures and monsters.
Yeah.
And then I also have a theory on, okay, so you're an adventuring party. You come back to the pub and someone says, well, what did you fight? What did you see?
Uh-huh.
And how do you explain a monster that no one has ever seen before?
Oh.
So, well, there was this like bear-like creature, and it had kind of big eyes, so it was an owl head and that kind of thing. And most people hearing that would then just make a bear with an owl head. But I wanted it to look like it fit and belongs. So the feathers are not just on the head; they're in the lower or the upper limbs of the bear body. So you combine the animals in a way and try to anticipate what the person was trying to explain in the pub and what it would look like and how it would move. I spent a lot of time at zoos, and I was a member at the Cincinnati Zoo. We lived about a half-mile from it and used to go there when no one else was there, like Tuesday in a snowstorm, and just watch the animals interact with the environment and the weather, that kind of thing.
You can't see this, but Bobby did respond to my comment and said, even a blind owlbear finds a hobbit every now and then. That's perfect, Bobby. That's perfect. That's funny. Yeah, do you find yourself... because one of the things with painting is you are painting a figure, and I give this advice, and I think about it when I'm painting. I try to create, especially if it's going to go into a diorama or if it's a player character or whatever, even doing busts, or try to create some kind of mood or atmosphere. When you're sculpting, there's no color there, but you're still thinking about that mood and that atmosphere when you're sculpting it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trying to get the expressions, and just... That's why studying animals, especially in movement, you can see the expression on the wolf when he's done something silly, and their embarrassment. You can see it in your dogs or your cats when they're embarrassed or happy, and trying to make that work in an animal.
All right,
just to give it a little life.
You and I have had a lot of video game conversations over the years. Is there anything that you're currently playing, or are you too busy to be playing any games right now?
I only like looking at screens for a limited amount of time, since a lot of what I've been doing is going on various people's shows and things like that. I have not been playing video games as much.
No, because you liked, you liked Fallout, right? You played Fallout for a while? Oh,
yes,
you played
my
Skyrim too. Yeah.
Favorite game of all time is Skyrim. I can just go and just jump around in the mountains and forget to do any of the things you're supposed to be doing, and just go around and look at things. Even back in Morrowind, it was really an eye opener. I wasn't into video games too much until the PlayStation hit, and started getting those first person perspective ones.
No, those are really cool. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Bloodborne, Dark Souls games.
That's beautiful, yeah.
Oh, they're just so... From Bob being on last week, I pulled out my old copy of Bloodborne and put it in, and been playing a few hours just to get that atmosphere, that vibe and stuff, because I want to create some kind of scene like that again. And I need that... sometimes that inspiration of seeing those other visuals to put you in the mind frame of in those pieces. Does that make sense? So, I lost my iPad finally ran dry. So Justin, are you on?
I am here.
I don't have access to chat right now because my iPad totally ran out of juice. So who knows what
he's going to be making up all sorts of questions.
I would never do that. Oh, it looks here like Trash Rama asks, Proctor, how is your show not canceled yet? Huh, weird.
Well, that would be a show. That'd be an actual question for the producer, Justin. How come this show hasn't been canceled before? I keep expecting it to happen every week, and it hasn't followed through yet.
Well, I always wait for this of all the shows that we have. This is the one voted most likely to have a nip slip. And when that does happen, I mean,
that's all we have to do for me to get canceled and keep all my equipment? I can do that.
Well. We do have another question, though, a real question.
Okay.
Let's see here. Let me find it again. Someone asked Julie if she played World of Warcraft, I believe.
I do not. I was told this by all my teachers when I was young. I don't play well with others. So I tend to play games that I can do individually. So no, I never played Warcraft, even though it's beautiful too.
Mm-hmm. I like the console games better, to be honest with you. I know there's a lot of other options on the PC, and you can even take your PC and put it on your TV or whatever. But the console to me has just always been technology easier. And there's been some really good offerings there. I really like the big visual expanses and stuff like that. But then the ease of play, and like I said, Julie, I like the games where you can maybe co-op with somebody if you want to bring somebody in, like the Souls games or whatever. But I'll be off on my own most of the time, and just exploring things and taking screen grabs of various buildings and various monsters or various whatever scenes and saving those. I've got a big folder on my iPad of all the little screenshots from the various games that I've played.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time out in nature. Do you find that a good video game kind of satisfies that impulse of being out and seeing mountains and things like that? It does with me when it's 115 degrees and I don't want to go out.
Yes and no. It's for me on the video game. It's more the fantasy world of stuff. But I love to grab my mountain bike and just disappear for 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing a video game can do to replace that. It's good just to totally escape and run away from everything that way. But
all right, let's see here. The next question comes in from B Jackson 2000.
He's a newer viewer, isn't he?
Yeah, newer viewer for sure. Yeah. This person asked, "What's a nip slip?"
Well,
we're gonna skip that question.
We'll skip that question.
Yeah. Sorry, B Jackson. We only want good questions.
Yeah.
Next one here.
Can we block people from watching the show altogether? Is that possible?
I think we can. Yeah.
I think he might hit my list. If we're creating a list, I think that might be good to start with.
If he answers another VMix call with the up the nose, looking down the bridge of his nose through his glasses look again.
Right.
Like it's he's definitely the king of that.
Yeah.
All right, we have another real question here from Izzy Lobo reposted it. It's from Valendar. It says, I have to ask, Miss Guthrie, what are your thoughts on the previously dramatic improvement on miniatures between 1980 and 1984? Looking at the old Grenadier figures from 1980 and then your own personalities just a few years later, the difference is staggering.
A lot of the Grenadier sculptors early on were not using the green putty, the blue-yellow polymeric stuff. I think that stuff, once you learned its idiosyncrasies, made a big difference. Like if you look at heritage pieces early on, they were sculpted in epoxy, but they were carved in epoxy. When Tom Meyer was learning, he found a sculptor and asked, what do you make these things out of? And they said epoxy. And so he went to the hardware store, and the only thing he found that said epoxy was, at that time, it was called Duro epoxy ribbon. It was designed to mend plumbing pipes and auto bodies and things like that. He said, well, this must be the stuff. And he's the one who learned early on how to make this stuff do what it does. I do think that is largely the difference in growth in the industry is because of that putty.
Well, that was a great question. Wow. Yeah, we got a new show writer because that was an awesome question.
Yeah, it was a great question.
Hey, I want to show off something.
Go ahead. While he's showing this off, by the way, anyone who has more questions, feel free to highlight them. I'm sure you guys have enough channel points to do that with. Feel free to highlight them so that we can see them a little easier.
What color are you going to paint that?
It's blue. I don't know.
You have one of the rare blue prototypes, by the way.
Is that what this is? Yeah,
that's a master cast. So
dun dun dun. Yeah,
yeah.
So this is for ReaperCon, sculpted by yourself. Fantastic, fun little octopus. He's not little either. He's pretty big. Here's your werewolf to kind of for size comparison. Like I don't know if there's ever been an instance of a werewolf and an octopus squaring off, but here it is. You know what this reminded me of? And for a while back, Reaper had a masterpiece series line where they did a limited number of 54 millimeters.
Ah, yes.
And I did this for the last time Reaper had a pirate themed ReaperCon. And this is your pirate, and this is the combo was the pirate and the tentacles coming out of the water, and just such a fun, cool sculpt. And then I made a little base around it and everything, and combined some elements from some other pieces. Was I think the parrot was from another set or something that I stole from.
That's true. The pirate, an interesting story for that piece is my dad had COPD fairly badly, and this was done when he started to go downhill, and it was my piece for him of basically fighting the disease and fighting the monster.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. I should give
I
you
also
this.
have one. Oh yeah, you should give me that. Yes, definitely.
There's a little turtle in the back too. I forgot about that turtle.
There's a follow-up piece to it that I haven't finished that I may not be able to. I don't know. It's pretty emotional.
Oh, ooh. I want to see it. I want to talk to you more about that. There's this piece. I forget the original title of the piece, but it ended up with a different title. It was called the Parrot of Unknown Allegiance, and that's what Ali Liu called it, because I entered this in diorama and got a silver Sophie trophy, and Rhonda beat me. Rhonda got the gold, and in a critique, Rhonda was asking the judge, hey, how come my piece beat Proctor's piece? Because Rhonda liked this one better than hers, and her piece was awesome. It deserved totally to win. But the judge said one comment was they were unsure what the parrot was doing, whose side the parrot was on. Was the parrot going to attack the pirate, or is the parrot going to fly down and attack the octopus? So.
Or maybe it was a smart parrot and it just wanted to be away from that thing.
Maybe that too. But yeah, there was an unknown determination of what that parrot's motivation was. So it became, the title of the piece became secretly was, not secret anymore, was the Parrot of Unknown Allegiance. So yeah. I just remember.
So Miss Julie.
Yes.
Can you handle 3 questions at once? I'll kind of tie them together.
Oh my God.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, let's see. We'll start with this is the first one. How much would you love the chance to sculpt a Nothic? I'm not sure what that means in this circumstance, but I assume you do. And then is there any mini/project/theme that you want to sculpt that you haven't done yet? Or conversely, which do you enjoy sculpting more, humanoid, figures, or dragons?
Okay, I'm not sure what a Nothic is. As far as, boy, I've done so much now. There's nothing right now that I can think of off the top of my head that I haven't got to sculpt that I would like to. I probably enjoy dragons more than anything, or any fantasy mythological creature is my first love.
Okay,
although
so
humans are fun too.
That's a Nothic.
Oh, he's cute.
Yeah, that's a medium aberration neutral evil.
Evil is always more fun than good. I have to admit.
Evil is more fun than good. Evil's I like the monsters, and that's why I've always been drawn to a lot of your pieces. You sculpt some great people, but your monsters and your dragons are always super.
So awesome. I kind of have a question actually too. Julie, historically for you, when you if you go far back to when you sculpted your first dragon, and the tons and tons and tons of dragons since, what would you say inspirationally you draw most of your like influence from? Is it uh, Anne McCaffrey dragons, or is it more like your traditional high fantasy dragons, which I know those are kind of based on this? Like, what style of dragon would you say influenced you the most?
Uh, European dragons more. What I do when I do a monster, especially a dragon, is I say, okay, what would a winged alligator look like if it moved like a cat? So you take a bunch of different animals, put it in a jar, and shake it up, and that's the way I approach my dragons. So they may have cat influences or wolf if they moved like a wolf, that kind of thing. Uh, Looking at elements, you throw an element in the jar and things like that, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Speaking of Anne McCaffrey, the first dragon miniature I ever sculpted, I think, well, maybe the second, was Ralpartha had the rights to do Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern piece.
That's
And
so cool.
they gave it to me to do, which, of course, I didn't want to do it all. And I got to hand deliver the prototype to get approval at a convention to Anne McCaffrey.
Oh,
And she
neat.
gave me a hug, so I guess she liked it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh,
And
that's
that's also a good example. She's a horse person. She loves horses. She has a ranch in Ireland, I think. And so I made some horse influence in it. There's a certain amount of
is that the
horse.
giant bronze dragon?
Yes, it was a bronze. Of course, it couldn't be as big as she had them. They were
Yeah.
huge, and still, it weighed 1.5 pounds, which back then, that's a lot of metal.
That was one of my very favorite dragons from back in the day. Was that
Oh,
one?
thank you.
And I don't even know if I remembered that you had done that, to be honest with you, because that is was one of the it was the most unique, one of the most unique looking ones, and I can see the horse reference now. It wasn't super scaled out or anything. It was leathery skin almost.
Yes,
was,
I believe I read her books. I enjoyed her books, and
yeah,
I don't think they were scaled. They had skin.
yeah. I have not read her book, so
I haven't read them since it's been a very long time.
All right, so we're getting on an hour right now, and I have a few other things that I wanted to show off. Are contractually obligated to show off. How about that? So, and you were kind of interested to see this next thing. Well, I want to show something else first. I want to show this off. So here is Jason's undead Pirate King sculpt in all its glory. And Ron showed it off a little bit, but we can use the zoom in camera. So this is the back piece, and all the cool, fun texture, and all the glyphs, and this is it's fantastic. It's a resin piece. Here's the skeleton guy, skeleton lord, super awesome. I like the little fish guys on the side and everything. If you can see the fish dudes and stuff there, and the way his hands turned out is so cool.
There's so much emotion to that. You can really see that that was a piece of love from Jason's.
Right, and the
Enjoyed
feet
that.
coming down holding the balls. That's just so cool. And you can see the big fish, and there's other little fish behind, and his crown, and he fits perfectly into. And this is one of the Reaper resin pieces, like you'll get if you do whatever box or whatever thing that this comes in. I forget the name of it. And so you get these three. You get a kick-ass little chest that's separate, and then there's a sprue, which I haven't taken them off yet. And there's, what's the only thing missing from this before I pulled this out was a crow, and he hit every button, everything. Get that crow in there. How do you got to have a crow in there. And then there's 3 more chests and stuff to include as well. I am super stoked to paint this. I want this. I'm going to paint it for probably my own collection. And
that's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, Reaper may not even get that back. All right, so in essence of time, I'm just going to tease this for now. We're going to talk about these a little bit more. I know Sadie goes over all these paints. Next week, we're going to have a special show, talk about in a second, but I'm going to utilize these colors a little bit more. The Doxy Blush and the Treasure Map, the Storm Chaser Blue and the Brine Wind Brown. The other two are metallic colors that I'll be teaching a shade metallics class at ReaperCon online, and then we'll use these paints too. Maybe we'll use them beforehand too, just to kind of goof around and whatnot too. But I'm super excited about these colors. They're really cool. Especially, it may sound strange, but this Brine Wind Brown I think will be a nice fun addition to the Dusky Skin Triad, the kind of an accent, kind of throw it off a little bit of a tonality color as well. As you guys know, I love that triad, the Dusky Skin Triad. It's a lot of fun to use. But I got this yesterday in the mail. The new Reaper airbrush. Super cool. I mean, it's just cool looking from the fact that it's black, right? It's got the Reaper logo. It's really nice. Now, and I was telling Justin before the show kind of about it, and this is not a low-end airbrush. This is pretty high-end airbrush with its functionality, which is really cool. And my evolution, this will be my fourth airbrush that I own. My very first one was an old Iwata side pull in. This was a gift from Gene Van Horn. Gene actually showed me and gave me tips and tutorials on how to airbrush. I learned from him how to airbrush at first, and he really taught me a lot. And this was his old airbrush he wasn't using anymore. I think he just wanted to get rid of it. I don't recommend ever getting an airbrush with a side thing like this. I just spilt paint all over the place all the time. But it was a great one to learn on, and it was a great one to appreciate. And then a mistake I made or whatever is I went all the way up to a Super Cadillac version, and this is the harder and Steinbeck Infinity airbrush, 2-in-1, and it had this great little dial, and this dial helps control how far you can pull the trigger back. And I mentioned that because we're going to talk about that in a second, how cool that is and how that's function is carried forward. It has a nice little trigger. And however, what I always struggled with on this airbrush, and I'll be very open and honest, my airbrushing is just like I paint. I'm more about being super creative and not being super refined in all my mixes and ratios and all this stuff like that. I like to mix stuff in and go. I like to mix stuff in the pot and go, and just clean out and go and clean out and go. This airbrush wasn't as friendly to that. It was a very high performance sports car that I burned the motor out a few times. Then my most recent brush was another Badger brush, and this is very similar, but it wasn't. I don't know. It's a Badger Patriot 105. Great all-purpose, hardcore. It can take the abuse kind of airbrush. And what this one, the new Reaper one, is kind of. But I made a concession in doing this. It took away a little bit of the functionality that this has for more of a bomb-proof. You just can use the crap out of this, and you're not going to have clogs as much or whatever. This is a happy marriage between the two. What I liked about it, and sounds like a commercial for the airbrush, but I wouldn't be selling it so hard if I really didn't like it as much. Is I did some airbrushing last night on this dinosaur that Jason sculpted this from the last Kickstarter. This is all just airbrush work, and this all with the new Vex Reaper brush. The cool thing about it is this is the D cup. If you guys are looking into the D or B cup, I like the D cup better because you're going all over the place, and I don't fill this whole thing up with paint. But the bigger the cup, the less likely you're going to spill it out. And when you spill it, you're going to spill it someplace like on your clothes or whatever. It's better to have the bigger cup, which is really cool. The neat thing about this, and you see this little dial right here, what this dial is good for, it tightens how far, when you pull the trigger back, the trigger pulls the needle back into the airbrush. And that controls how much paint comes out. The further you pull back, the more paint comes out. You can use this as a guide, and especially if you're learning, or I used it a lot last night because this is a brand new airbrush. I wasn't used to the total feel, didn't have that muscle memory with the feel yet. It was great in the fact that I could dial it all the way in and just crank the air out, but just pull it back a little bit, and it almost becomes a little cheater guide, like training wheels almost. And it controlled my paint out, and I could get, without knowing the airbrush really well, I could get some more fine lines like I was getting on Triceratops here. That was the one thing that the Infinity had that the 105 didn't have. That was kind of a concession. The other cool thing, and I was really surprised by this as well, was the trigger. This is a super nice ridged trigger. I think this is an upgrade trigger. I'm not sure. My Badger doesn't have that fancy trigger. I know Greg Zuniga, who knows a lot about airbrushes, he was telling me he upgraded one of his airbrushes to a nicer trigger. And I don't know if this is the same one that he upgraded to or not, but it's super sweet and super nice. The nice thing about this too, it is super easy to clean. And what's cool is this little cap comes off. And so when you're airbrushing and you've mixed your paint, like I do a lot of times inside the pot, they'll get a little buildup on the tip, and that will start to clog up the airbrush a little bit and not give you your nice flow. I will usually have a little bit of alcohol and some fine little brushes like this, and as it's going along, it starts to get a little clogged up. I'll take this and I'll clean it off a little bit, and just keep going. That way I don't have to worry about cleaning out the airbrush or anything like that. This little guide protects your needle, kind of controls the spray a little bit, but it worked in a lot of ways just as good, and maybe even a little bit better once you're trying to get in control, even to take this cap off. And you can get some really super duper fine lines that you could get still with this cap. I just found this, taking the cap off, I had a little more control. Now, the cap is nice, especially if you're newer to airbrushing, and the thing that you don't want to do with an airbrush needle is bend the tip. So this is a nice guide to have on, so you don't bend the tip. And then even when you're not using it and you're putting it away, you can this little thing right here releases the needle, and you can pull it back, and you can do like that, and you can store it where it's all hidden away, which is really cool too. Not all airbrushes do that as easily. Super easy to clean, and then the black, it's just cool. I mean, I like the silver one. I thought that was really cool, but the black is super awesome as well. So when these go on sale at ReaperCon, I'd go for it and pick one up. I would recommend the D cup over the B cup, but you can't go wrong either way. With me, I'm messy, so I need the D cup to hold everything in. But that's my little commercial for that. And then so next week we're gonna play around with this. We're gonna show it off. So I'm just gonna, I don't know, grab a few monsters and airbrush with them a little bit. We probably won't have, we may or may not have a guest on. We're just going to be airbrushing and trying out the airbrush a little bit more. I'm anxious to do that. I use airbrush on most big things. On Blacksting, I airbrushed him super far. But what I'll end up doing a lot of times is going and touching up or even repainting a lot of areas where I've airbrushed. It helps me block in all the colors and stuff. I thought this was good. I tried it with a lot of different air pressures last night, super high, super low, and different thicknesses and thinnesses of paint. All paint's different in how it reacts to being thinned out. But I only clogged once, and that's because I kind of forced it to clog by doing the paint too thick. But it took it a while for it to clog up. Not saying that similar results will apply to you, like they say as legal things on commercials, but it was cool. So if you're looking for a new airbrush, this is a good one to get. And Badger makes good airbrushes, and they're solid, and they're not I the two my limited experience with Badger airbrushes is they are not finicky. They are pretty sturdily built, and they take abuse well. And so you don't have to be like, oh, I gotta baby this too much. The thing with an airbrush, like anything, for most of you, especially if you're new to it, is don't bend the tip. It's a good lesson in life too. But keep your tip safe.
Oh boy.
I was trying not to go there, but my mind just, I didn't want to go there, but my little devious mind, the little devil on my shoulder was like, no, you gotta go there. You gotta say something. So
I actually got one of these airbrushes, Proctor.
you did, and
I did, and it's a desk ornament.
It's a desk ornament. That's an expensive desk ornament.
Well, it's really more for like display. It'll probably end up in the background or on my set whenever we build it.
Oh, so you're gonna actually have a set where they show you off? Or you're gonna be on camera because you try to avoid that.
No, I meant no. I don't mean literally where I'm sitting. I mean like the new Reaper Live set because we're building the studio. But I might have one on my. I might have one on my desk in the studio too, kind of to show people because it's an interesting piece. So
it's really cool looking too. It's not just it's an airbrush. It works really well. It's nice. It looks cool, and that's part of it too. You want things to look cool. You don't want it just to be functional.
You know what, Trash Rama? Yeah, we'll do that. 2K subs, and I will literally put in a high quality studio cam that you guys can monitor like you're in the control room whenever we set up over there.
That'll be fun. So we're nearing the end. Did I miss anything that I needed to pub? No, I don't think so. Again, we'll do more on the airbrush next week, and I'm going to show off Jason's. I might start painting on that thing too. His little undead pirate king skeleton thing, whatever. But Julie, do you have anything? This is a time when we pub things. Like, is there anything you'd like to pub? Anything? I don't know. TV show you're watching?
Oh, not really. Okay. Working hard with Reaper again. So.
Yeah, Ron have you doing a bunch of stuff that we don't know about yet?
Some holiday pieces and some pieces we're probably not allowed to talk about.
Cool.
He showed. I think he showed the holiday beholder the eye beast.
That's cool. I think I saw. Yeah, did he show that off? Pretty sure he did.
I think he did. Yeah.
We always pay attention to what Ron says, right?
Oh, sure. when you can actually get him to answer the phone and talk to you.
Right. Oh, I did. So Bob referenced this. You were a art director at one point at Ralpartha, right?
Yes.
Was that towards the end of your run with Ralpartha, and you were still sculpting for them? And so, what else did that involve?
When Tom started traveling the world, and they needed more, this was the mid '80s, early '80s, where D&D had just taken off, and so almost any figure you made, you could sell, and so they were getting freelancers in for the first time, early '80s, and so they needed someone to kind of direct that a little bit. Partha had a definite look and quality level that they didn't want to fall below.
And that was what Bob referenced when he submitted his piece, and you had to gently just let him know, hey, maybe I know you did that stuff for Aliens. You keep telling me you did all that stuff for Aliens, but maybe you need to go back and work on things a little bit more. Is that how the conversation went?
Not really. He hadn't given that piece as a piece that Reaper was going, or that Ralpartha was going to buy.
Okay.
It was just, here's my level right now. In the early '80s, there was a lot of growth in where when I first started, you could get into a company and they would pay for your apprenticeship. That was starting to not be true. You had to have a certain skill set and skill level before a lot of companies would accept pieces.
Well, I wanted to throw that in there because, as a guest on the show, you're not going the bus is going to avoid you for the most part. But after the next show, but it's free. Bus is free game.
Okay.
So that was.
Thanks for the warning.
No. Certain people will never. Well, not never, but I can't think of any bus related incidents to go after you with. So maybe one will pop in my head.
I have a list, and I'm not giving it to you.
Well, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Thanks for talking about the barbecue story. I know that's probably a scarring still, both figuratively and mentally. But
I was going to ask you if you had a barbecue color that you could put in that airbrush just for old times.
I know, maybe. I want to thank you for all the help that you've given me over the years and directing me and talking with me and it's always cool, and I've had other painters tell me this as well, is when you get to know somebody who's in the field and doing the sculpting and stuff, and when you finished Maldekar, you came up to me and said, "I really want you to paint this. I'm telling Ron that I want you to paint this," and I was so blown away and flattered by that. I was also like very intimidated, but because that thing was so freaking huge. And massive. I've heard of people going, I've already painted 3 of them now. I'm like, oh my God, it took me like 6 months to paint that thing.
With a 0 brush.
No. Yeah, that I did airbrush the crap out of that. But yeah, I painted all those heads individually and then attached them afterwards just because the
surface area on that is just huge. Right back at you though, it's as a sculptor, it's really one of the things I get the most enjoyment of is seeing what painters do with it and how they're creative with what the canvas that I've given them.
There's an inside story to that one. We both know that. We won't drive that bus. We'll save that bus for another time, right? Don't you think?
But it is true. I've
true.
given you sort of a paint by number thing, and then to see what you guys do it, because I don't think of these things as color when I'm sculpting them. It's just form.
That's the thing that for me as a painter, because I think I've asked all of y'all that at some point or another. Do you see when you're sculpting this, are you seeing it in color, or are you just seeing it like back in the old day when everybody sculpted in green? Do you see it in green? Do you see it in pixels? And everyone gave the answer you just gave. You're seeing
I've been trying to change that to a certain degree now that I've painted a couple. I'm trying to pay a little more attention to what a painter may want to do with it, but it's still hard. What level do you sculpt at? Do you sculpt at something that is going to be tabletop and dry brushed and everything, which is important, and the majority of people are painting to play with these things, or do you go with a high end something like that where someone can really get into it? I'm trying to pay more attention to that, but it's still all about form with me.
And you always just give, I've always asked you, so what do you think about this? And I can only remember one time where you gave me art direction, and that was on the Griffin from the last Kickstarter. I said, so I'm going to paint this. What do you want? And all you said was, don't make him a bald eagle. Do you remember that?
Okay. Actually, I don't know, but I did.
You said don't make him a bald eagle. I'm like, okay, I wasn't going to, but yeah, that's a good call. You've seen a lot of them as bald eagles, right? The Griffins.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to go more of a golden eagle, and I wanted his wings ended up being a little bit more harpy eagle. So, but yeah,
a lot more interesting things you can do with the paint job there than you can with a bald eagle.
Yeah. Oh, totally. All right. So, Justin, I think we are getting ready to wrap things up. Again, we were going to wrap it up a few minutes ago. We got sidetracked in yet another story, which is fun to do. I like to tease him on when we're going to actually end or not. But are you ready to roll? I mean, do you want to go over? So we always do this. And so shows. Monday through Friday, we have Ann, Painting Big Ann with Reaper Toolbox. And I mentioned Painting Big because Ann's just started up her own Twitch channel. So if you guys haven't already seen that, we've rated her the last couple times we've been on. Check out Anne. She's doing her own freelance gig now, doing her own Patreon. So if you haven't already supported her, show her love and give her the support too. She's out there on her own, making her way as an artist, which is very commendable. That's Monday through Friday. On Mondays, which we just missed, so you'll have to wait till next Monday, is at 2 o'clock. Is that right?
3 o'clock.
2 o'clock Central Mountain Time, 3 o'clock Central Time. See, I'm in the mountains, so that's why I messed that up.
Oh, sure, that's fair.
is Josh with Miniature Mondays. He's got the little paint kits. Those are cool. One every month. He paints all the miniatures step by step through the process. That's pretty cool. It's been super successful. He has a nice following there, so which is cool. That's Monday afternoons, and you're here for Tuesday, the best show on Reaper Miniatures, the Crow's Nest. That's not what my opinion. That's what I've heard. And then on Wednesdays, painting Anne painting Reaper Toolbox by itself. No, but no longer by itself. Isn't that right, Justin? We have a new Euro painting with us.
Potentially, yeah. We likely won't see that show Wednesday afternoon until after ReaperCon. Because we're getting into
it's called My Name is Luca.
Yes, that's the name of the show. Why not? My name is Luca.
And he lives on the second floor.
Okay.
No, I don't know him. I've watched his Twitch. He's funny. He's got a good personality. I really like his work. He's a very high quality painter. I'm just joking. That's my song reference. Is probably in bad taste. Thursday is Anne again. Anne's every day. Anne's hardcore. I couldn't do this every day. It'd just be draining. And then we have Sadie painting Platinum, her fantastic show, showing off paints and all kinds of other things. I think she do the most in combining gaming and geek culture of all the shows. The tagline that the other show that's kind of fallen off lately has abandoned.
Her show is definitely more about gaming and geek culture as a whole, and actually regular culture too. It's everywhere.
That's cool. You need that kind of show on. And then Reaper Live, it started off it's nice to have. They gave away 5 airbrushes, and you guys set record attendance last week, right?
Not record attendance, no, but we had a lot of people watching.
That was $1,000 worth of stuff you gave away on Thursday.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we had about almost 700 people, but the most we've ever had in one sitting.
Yeah.
That was actually third. Second was the time that Anne got rated by CNOT, and we had about almost 900 people watching her. That was like 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then the most we ever had was a Kickstarter party when we had a little over 1,000.
That was when Jason and I were on. I think we drove everybody then.
Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. Then we have on Friday. We have Anne again, of course. We have Reaperland at 2 o'clock, right? 2 o'clock? Reaperland?
Reaperland is 3 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Mountain Time.
Yeah, 2 o'clock Mountain Time. So there you go. And then is there a Bones 5 update or not this week?
I believe there is. Yeah, because it's the first Friday. There's also an episode of Reaper Errant.
I know, the very best show on Reaper Twitch channel, don't you think? Reaper Errant. I think it's most underappreciated as well. I think we need to get some viewers watching. Julie, do you watch Reaper? Do you watch us play D&D?
Not too much. I mean, wasn't your last session 3 hours long or something like that?
Yes, it's fantastic. You can't hang out for 3 hours and watch us play D&D?
Yeah. Ron might have something to say about that.
I know. It's fun. It's fun to play. It's fun to watch for a little while at least. But I get it. I don't know if I could. It's kind of like, yeah. Anyways, so there's that. And that's like kind of the lineup of what's going on. And then we've got ReaperCon coming up in a month, right?
Yeah, basically about a month from today. Yeah.
So we're setting up stuff. We're going to be doing all kinds of things. Crow's Nest is going to be on. I'm going to do a painting class, Shaded Metallics, on Friday. It's going to be on the Twitch channel. And then we're working out some details, and we're going to have a painting. What was the word we called it, Justin, on Saturday?
Let me see. I actually titled it earlier.
Okay.
I titled "What Makes a Quality Paint Job."
Yeah. So we're efforting right now for our guests, Rhonda and Jen Greenwald. I'd like to have Derek on. I don't know if Derek's watching or not. I haven't sent him an invite yet, but I'd like to have Derek on too. And we're just going to be talking about, like Justin said, it's going to start off general, but we'll get into the details of things and ramble on. And it's going to be like a VMix call and go over some examples and what have you. So it's going to be a lot of fun as well. And plus, there's other stuff coming up too. But yeah, and then so next week is airbrush demo, and maybe we'll have a guest on too, just to keep things going. But we'll see. So, but
we'll see. Maybe we can get like Lovejoy on or something.
I don't know. Maybe. He's kind of a. I don't know. No, I want to have Aaron on. I want to have Aaron on first time as a full-on guest. He needs that treatment first because I want to talk to him about a lot of things like
I agree.
His miniature monthly and his whole career and everything. That's more important than just pimping an airbrush. I want to have him on for that more. Yeah, he's a really good friend of mine. I want to make sure he gets the attention. So, anyways, to another one of my good friends, Julie, thanks again for being on the show. I really appreciate it and really had a good time.
Thank you. It was fun.
I hope you'll come back. You will, yeah?
Sure.
I don't think I can virtually squirt you with barbecue sauce, but I'll try.
You'll find a way.
I'll find a way. Anyways, are we ready to raid? Who are we raiding?
We have the raid set up. We're going to be raiding Anne. Painting big.
Awesome.
Oh, good.
Awesome. Cool. All right.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Keep being awesome. Spread the Reaper love. And thank you again, Julie, for coming on.
Thank you too, Justin.
Cheers. Thanks.
See you guys. Now we are.
Is it safe?